Hey guys, it's Doc here. I wanted to talk to you on this Saturday about one of the greatest hits and one of the most moving comics I've ever read in my life. It's The Amazing Spider-Man issue 400. It's called Death in the Family. Behind this tombstone cover, you get a regular Mark Bagley and Larry Malstead penciled and inked cover. You get page 3, you get The Gift. Aunt May's been in a coma. Peter hasn't known whether she's going to make it out alive or not. But before we dig into this, J.M. DeMatteis is the writer, Mark Bagley is the penciler, Larry Malstead is the inker, with an assist by Randy Emberlin. And you get to see Aunt May wake up in the hospital. She says, I can't leave without, I couldn't leave without saying goodbye. And Ben Reilly, the clone, the Scarlet Spider, looks on. And Peter gives him a glaring look and says, you gotta go. You can't be here. What if you give her a heart attack? So Ben goes and does a little web slinging around town. Meanwhile, you get to see May come home. And MJ's excited to have her home. And May's more excited to realize that MJ's pregnant. She says there is no greater responsibility than to be a parent. Meanwhile, Peter and Ben talk outside. He says, you know what? You're the real Peter Parker. The Jackal just wanted to hurt us in the last couple of episodes. And I'm going to leave and you'll never hear from me again. Leaving Peter in the yard. And Mary Jane to talk to Aunt May as she drifts off into sleep. The next day, you see Peter and Mary Jane looking at these old home videos of Peter when he was a baby. Mary Jane reminding him nothing and no one is going to tear our love apart and take it away. Ben's still trying to find out why he can't leave. He wants to go. But now we're tripling down. I forgot about this, but we're tripling down because here comes another Peter Parker look-alike. This cop finds sitting on a bench. And when he harasses the guy to come in, he jumps and doesn't thwip, but he jumps and leaps his way onto the top of the building before running off. Meanwhile, we get to see Peter and Aunt May at the top of the Empire State Building. And she's explaining that I knew you were Spider-Man. I would have had to have been an idiot to not know that. You get to see Peter's face as Aunt May just kind of buckles as they're standing up top of the observation tower. And this is honestly one of the hardest scenes to ever read. They get back home and Aunt May's laying in bed and fever that has sprung up forces Aunt May to have that conversation. She says, you've never been good at letting go. Losing your parents the way they did made it so hard for you. And he's like, no, you can't go. Yes, but not all leave taking is bad. I've had a good life and a long life, and I'm tired, and it's my time. So Peter, with Ben Riley standing outside, says, do you remember the story that you used to read to me? Because I had a dream lately, and you were in that dream, and I was so scared and confused, but I knew that you would help me if I could just find you. And you did. You told me I had a journey to make. It was my destiny. You said, what am I supposed to do? I asked you. Where am I to go? And you reminded me of that book you'd read to me over and over when I was a little boy. You pointed to the night sky, and you said, second to the right and straight on till morning. How Peter Pan and Wendy, Michael and John would fly over the city and up and into the heavens. Meanwhile, you've got you've got MJ and Aunt Anna, who have just returned, looking on with tears in their eyes. And Peter tells her, I want you to let go, and I want you to fly second to the right and straight on till morning. It's not one of the greatest comics that you'll ever read, the greatest hits for action, for explosions, but instead for a somber, thoughtful, non-permanent send-off for a character that had meant so much to Peter Parker for over 30 years at that point. And it's something that I feel is sorely lacking in today's comic book writers, is the fact that you get your character, and it's not about you and your politics. It's not about you and how you feel about certain things. You take the immovable object that is who Peter Parker is at his core, and you add a little salt and a little pepper from your own life, and you bring that to these characters, and you embellish the characters with that type of storytelling. I'm sorry, guys, this one gets me every time. It gets me every single time I read it. And that was all the way back in, see if I can read this tiny little print. All the way back in 1995. So I was 14, almost 15 when I read that story. And even back then, I understood what we try to get our comic writers to understand now. That if you can't hit somebody in the feelings every once in a while, if you can't make them stop and think, why are these characters important to me? Why do I spend my hard-earned money to collect these books about these fictional characters that in the end they won't matter? When the earth is dying, a comic book won't change that. But when your aunt is dying, when your uncle is dying, it might just change your whole world. So thank you for joining me for this very, very special issue. episode of Doc Lil Talks Comics in the Greatest Hits series. If you've never read this book before, don't let my overly verbose and almost page by page, panel by panel exposition of this keep you from reading it. Go out there and find your own copy, whether it's got this tombstone cover on it or it's just the regular cover for issue 400. But go out there and read this, and then come back in the comments below and tell me it didn't touch you and it didn't make you feel something. Thanks for joining me, guys and ladies. Y'all have a wonderful weekend, hopefully a restful weekend, and I'll be back soon with another video.